I'm welcoming to the stage Kash Bhattacharya.
Woohoo! Wow, great pronunciation. Bhattacharya, you nailed that. My mum would have been proud of you, Catherine. Right, I hope you've all got a drink in your hand. Yeah? It's getting to that time of the evening where things start getting a bit blurry, so I hope you'll remember a few words of my talk. I'm going to put my pint down because things get dangerous when I have a beer in my hand, as many people in this audience will testify. So, I have the joy of coming to meet you beautiful people tonight. Thanks to Catherine, thanks to Dave, thanks to Kathy. It's always nice to share your story, and it's been very inspiring to hear Alice and Claire. It's a real privilege. So I hope the next 30 minutes will not be the worst 30 minutes of your life. Don't hate me after if they are, but I'm going to talk a little bit about my dream come true. We've all been talking about dreams, we've all been talking about travel, and I had this amazing thing happen to me where I became a published author this year. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I hope it happens to you one day too. Maybe I'll tell you some secrets today. So, wonderful thing happened where you convert your presentation into Keynote and things start going a little missing. So my blog is called Not Just Budget. That would be awesome. Google. I remember when I first tried to buy my first domain name, budgettravel.com, the guy asked me for 20,000 euros, and I was like, I'll get .org. I'll be bigger than you. I'm going to be an organization. So my blog is called budgettraveler.org, but I'm not an organization. It's just me and my sister and a few other people who can spare and help me out whenever they can. I was the Blogger of the Year in 2016, National Geographic Traveler, you might have heard. Their readers were crazy enough to give me this award of being the best blogger, so which was kind of humbling and amazing. I won a few awards. I've been featured in a couple of newspapers and magazines that you might read, like The Guardian, New York Times, Vanity Fair, which has all gone missing for some reason, but anyway, who cares? My friend's giving me grief because I'm always a Mac user and he's PC. I'm a Liverpool fan and he's Manchester United, so we're still best friends after 25 years, So, a little bit about me. 10 years about blogging. Crikey, I feel so old. I'm turning 40 this year. God, how did I survive all these 10 years? I haven't visited that many countries. I've only visited 50 countries. There's some people who have been blogging for only a year or two, and they're like, been to 124 countries, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Are you like spending time to breathe, smell the flowers around you? How do you travel to so many countries in such a short time? I'm a slow traveler. The older you grow, the slower it goes. I've been to a lot of hostels, which I'm going to talk about in this talk. I've been to 400 hostels. Jeez, that's a lot of hangovers there. Including one tonight, maybe. 6.5 million visits to my blog over the last few years, so that's pretty awesome. But enough of bragging about my awesome statistics. What's in store for you tonight? What I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk to you about my love of hostels, specifically luxury hostels. Yes, you can find luxury in a hostel, ladies. I'm going to tell you all about it. Wow, there's a lot of cackling and giggling going on there. Not that kind of luxury you're thinking of. I'm going to talk to you about the idea of my book and how it all happened. And then things are going to get dark. I want you to be prepared. I'm going to talk about an embarrassing disease I have. And you may have it too. Okay, a lot of people are getting worried here. They're like, oh no, what is he going to talk about here? You just have to wait. I'm going to give you my grand appearance in German national television. Yeah, German national television. RTL 2, finest channel in German TV. All the trashiest one. And I'm going to show you a little video of one of my favorite hostels in my book. It's in the northernmost hostel in the book, but I'm not going to tell you where it is. You're just going to have to think about it. Moving on. Here's a little video of all these beautiful hostels that I love and that you might love too. So be honest with me. When I say the word hostels, you didn't think they'd be like that, right? Swimming pools, cinemas, ball pools. It's a whole world of fun. But anyway, I'm going to take you all the way back to where it all started, and my story starts. It starts in 2009, and I used to live in this city. 5 London points, 5 London travel story points. Who can guess the name of the city? Hey! I was proud to call this city home for almost 9 years. I love it. If only the weather wasn't so bad. It's so miserable. And the people get so miserable in the weather, but it's such a beautiful city. I had the joy of working in a magazine about fair trade and green issues called New Consumer. It was the first magazine to cover the fair trade and ethical green lifestyle movement. Wonderful magazine to work on. So I was working on that. At the same time, I was working in a bar because working in a magazine really doesn't pay the bills. And I loved the job, even though the pay was terrible. It was called the Brass Monkey, a really cool bar. Lots of nutters, beautiful nutters there. And I also used to cover my bills working my third job at Blackwell's bookstore. Really lovely bookstore. You walk into the bookstore and travel section is amazing. I would spend hours in that travel section looking at books and dreaming of all the places to travel. And again, the pay was terrible. But I was in a lot of debt. I was blogging at that time at this blog called Europe Budget Guide. The SEO gurus told me, because I'm shit at SEO, search engine optimization, for those of you who are not aware of the term. That time the fashion was put all the keywords into your blog name if people want to find you. So not the sexiest name in the world. But I ran that blog, but I was running a magazine for students in Scotland 4 years before that. And the recession came in 2009, and my magazine fell down. And I was also working with the wrong kind of business partners, the kind of guys that would show off their business card at nightclubs and wanted to get laid and would never turn up to write or produce the magazine in the morning. So thanks to the wrong choice of business partners, I was bankrupt at 24. So while I was bankrupt, I was starting the blog and working 3 jobs. So not a very glamorous life. But blogging is like therapy for me, and I think all the speakers before have said that blogging is not just about travel. It gives you a meaning, an identity, gives you a purpose in life. And through blogging, I met lots of wonderful people. Some people who are still in this room today, having met them all those years ago. So I'm proud to call these people my community. But in terms of blogging, it really became an addiction because I wanted to make this my life. But the problem in 2011, once I realized that I really like this blogging stuff, it's really cool. There were 155 million blogs in 2011. Can you imagine how many blogs there are now? I think probably well in excess of 1 billion. So it's very difficult when there are 155 million blogs out there. Who the hell is going to read your blog? And it also doesn't help when you write about hostels, because last time I checked, people didn't have the right idea about hostels. When you think hostels, if I can look into your brain right now, this is the image in your brain. I know, I can see. I'm like that guy, Mel Gibson from What Women Want. I can look in your brains now. I can see. This is what you think when I say the word hostel. That's the worst possible image I could find on the internet. And then there's images like that. Yeah. That's what we're here for, right? To get wasted. Hostel, bar, good times, get drunk, cheapest, worst possible alcohol ever, worst hangovers ever. Like even, look, there's no even, you don't even know what brand of vodka you're drinking. It's covered in blue, tarpaulin. That's how bad it gets in hostels. But guess what? I wanted to, before I go any further, I wanted to change the way people think about hostels. But there was some other problems that were going on in my life at that time. I was in this city. Can anybody guess? Okay, it's an easy one, right? Everybody knows that. So, what was happening in April 2011? I'm going to let you think on that. 26th of April 2011. People who have seen my talk before, there's 3 or 4 people in this room. Do not say it. There was a big life event, big event that happened. I was working with a company called BMI Baby, and I was sent to Paris on a 100-pound Paris challenge. If you've been to Paris, 100 pounds doesn't buy you toilet paper. Forget about getting a meal to eat or getting on the metro or anything. It's nothing. It was a suicidal mission from the moment I accepted it. But the biggest problem on 26th April, there was a big life event happening. Can anybody tell me what happened? What was happening in Paris on the 26th of April? Huh? No. Nice try. Some people were getting married. We were all there, remember. We were all on Twitter, all on Facebook. My whole Twitter feed was full of gushing stories. I'm like, hey guys, I'm in Paris, give me some tips. And all the girls are like, oh my, OMG, 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 did you see her dress? That was my whole Twitter feed. It was just full of Kate's dress. And I had some other problems. I was in a dorm, 14-bed dorm. One of the proper dorm beds, none of this 4-bed, 6-bed dorm shit. 14-bed with a bunch of 12 Brazilians that had drank way too many caipirinhas the night before. It was the Real Madrid-Barcelona game the night before, and they were shit-faced. And they were snoring like hyenas. It was like this wonderful harmony. It was like, not the same tones, but just different tones and levels. And you have those moments of crisis in your life when you think, I can't hack it in dorms. And then you start writing letters like this. I didn't write this letter. This is the letter I found on the internet. Dear Bed 72, I hate you. Please, for the love of God, get your sinuses checked before you ever check into a dorm again. Because of your splitting snoring, none of us got any sleep last night. We tried to wake you up numerous times, but to no avail. We've all had that moment, right, where we're in a dorm and we're like, for the love of God, why did I not get the earplugs? But then we also have this other problem. guilty to admit that I once stayed in this hostel 8 years ago, before it was all flash and nice. It wasn't so nice 8 years ago, Generator. And I was in their toilets, and the toilets were about 15, 20 toilets in one pod. And that moment when you're sitting in the toilets and there's no space, you can hear everything next door. You start wondering, am I the only person in the world who has a problem of shitting in public toilets? Do you kind of feel your muscles tighten when you hear another person next to you? We won't go into the waft of aroma and all the details. But we have a strange thing, we humans, that whenever we have a problem in our life, we start Googling, think, is this a disease? But guess what Google tells you? The fear of shitting in public toilets. It's a disease. Yeah. You and me, we share a disease. It's called parkopresis, a name coined to represent the psychogenic fecal retention, which is the inability to defecate when other people are perceived or likely to be around. Example, I love that. It's getting really specific, Google. In the same public toilet, the same house, or the same building. Apparently, there's an analogous condition that affects urination, which is called paruresis, which guys in the room will know, all the urinals. It gets a bit too cozy for my liking. So I have that problem of parkopresis. And then I had some other problems in my life. I was newly single. I was married once upon a time. And my friend at the time, Spanish lady, she said, go to Match.com. If you're old enough, I can see some heads nodding. Yeah, you're pretty old if you remember Match.com. Forget Tinder. Tinder's a luxury. Match.com was the real good old hard days of dating. And when you'd have something cheesy like that waiting at you, and every time you logged in, it's terrible, look at that. Someone special is waiting for you. What a lot of cheese. And then you'd go on these dates, and let's not kid ourselves. The love of travel is a great gift that bonds us all. And whenever you tell somebody that you travel for a living, oh boy, wow, their face just lights up like, wow, you are the most luckiest person in the world. Look at you. You travel for a living. And then you tell the girl, oh yeah, I stay in hostels. And then the face drops. Sorry, Kash. I'm a hotel kind of girl. It ain't gonna work between us. And I saw this problem a lot. I don't know why. Why do girls feel scared of hostels? Then there was this movie that came out. If you're old enough, some people are giggling. You're old enough to remember this. The Hostel. They called it The Hostel. This was the worst movie ever for the hostel industry. I don't know how much Hostel World or any other company paid to produce this movie. This was bad business for our hostel industry, and it was very bad for Slovakia, because apparently it was shot in Slovakia. But you know what the funny fact is? This film was never shot in Slovakia. It was filmed in Czechoslovakia, in Czech Republic. So poor old Slovakians, eh? Nobody ever wants to go to them. And obviously nobody ever wants to stay in a hostel. So I had all these negative problems, like need my own private toilet. So I had this golden idea that, hey, I've got all these jobs. I really want to do this blogging thing for good. And I thought I have to do one thing in my life and make it stick. Because until that point in life, I had nothing in my life had stuck. I'd tried, failed. And I thought, let me do this book about all these amazing hostels, because I realized that the hostel industry needed a rebrand. And somebody told me about hostels in Portugal. Who here has been to Portugal? Hey, Porto. Has anybody here been to Porto? Fab. Claire is going to Porto next week. This is my favorite hostel in the whole wide world. It's not the best hostel in the whole wide world, but I'm emotionally attached to it because it was the first hostel I visited in my project. It's a 17th century merchant's residence. It has a bar. That's the bar right in front. Port tonics for €2. They make these delicious port tonics. Forget gin and tonics. That's yesterday's drink. Gin and tonic. Port tonics is the drink. And they serve port tonics, and they do a 3-course meal. And that's the 3-course meal for €10, including a glass of wine. And this is something you can expect in a lot of hostels in Portugal, where they do a meal deal, where you get 3 courses and you get all the hostel residents sitting around the table, eating and drinking. And that is the ultimate luxury of travel, meeting other travelers, exchanging stories. Who can guess what bookstore this is? Livraria Lelo, okay. I think I gave it away by almost mentioning it. So I went to all these beautiful places, and suddenly I realized that there's lots of hostels that not only give private rooms, but they all offer an amazing experience. This is one in Lisbon called the Oasis Mansion. Beautiful building near this beautiful place called Miradouro Santa Catarina, one of the best views of Lisbon. Another amazing hostel, Independente. It's a Swiss ambassador's residence. They have a restaurant. It's the place to be in Lisbon. It's called a Decadent. They have a bar in the front. It's the kind of bar where everybody sits and it spills out right onto the street, all the locals eating and drinking on a Friday night in Lisbon. And yeah, I suddenly realized that all these hostels are amazing, and nobody knew about these hostels. And I did a road trip. I quit my job in Edinburgh, packed all my things into a backpack, and I visited 40 hostels, and I wrote a book about it. And I got this thing called an Interrail pass that the lovely people at Euroventure sell. It is the best thing I ever did in my travel life. It is so good to just have a piece of paper in your hand and get on a train and just get this guy to tick it off, write your date of travel, and you can go anywhere in Europe. It's so much fun. First place I went to was Copenhagen and the Generator there. Beautiful hostel. Florence, plus a swimming pool outside, a swimming pool inside, and a sauna and steam room, all for the price of a dorm bed for €12. Great place. Mad in the summer, as you can see. Beehive, a different kind of hostel, smaller hostels. A lot of people hostels think big, large hostels. This is a small hostel. Steve, the owner there, does Italian cooking classes twice a week. And they do a monthly storytellers event every month. It's a fabulous place. And then there's me getting wet in the shower. Why? I'll show you why.
Schnarchende Zimmergenossen, fiese Duschen und schlechtes Frühstück. Hostels sind meistens günstig, aber ungemütlich. In Berlin hat jetzt das erste Luxushostel aufgemacht. Komfortabel und mit Partykeller. Wir haben den Laden mit einem Blogger getestet, der sich mit Hostels auskennt. Stefan Framke.
Luxushostels wie das in Berlin sind für Kash Bhattacharya die Zukunft. Der 33-Jährige ist sowas wie der Papst der Rucksacktouristen. Der Berufsblogger jettet dank seiner Sponsoren durch Europa und testet Hostels. 9000 Reisewütige folgen ihm auf Twitter und lesen seinen Blog. Es gibt in ganz Europa diesen Trend, Hostels, die den Komfort eines Hotels bieten, aber trotzdem ihren Charme behalten. Das zieht vor allem bei Mädels, denn die finden Mehrbettzimmer und Duschen auf dem Gang ziemlich unsexy. Im Berliner Luxushostel gibt es 2er- bis 8er-Zimmer. Die Nacht kostet zwischen 10 und 28 Euro pro Person, je nach Saison. Frühstück macht nochmal 3,90. Im ganzen Haus ist WLAN kostenlos. In den Zimmern gibt es Stockbetten, abschließbare Schränke und jeder Raum hat ein eigenes Bad. Normalerweise sind Hostelduschen echt scheiße. Es gibt keinen anständigen Wasserdruck und du teilst sie mit 20 Leuten. Ich mag da schon eher diese Variante. Und zwar so sehr, dass er die Klamotten gleich anbehält. Frischmachend für die Party im hosteleigenen Club. Das Luxuskonzept kommt bei den Berlin-Touristen an.
Es ist sehr schön, sehr neu. Nicht so dieses Hostel-Klischee, dass alles irgendwie so ein bisschen abgeranzt ist, sondern es sieht alles sehr stylisch aus und sehr schön.
In ganz Europa sollen solche Hostels bald stehen. Für Hotels echte Konkurrenz. Auch wenn die Betten ein bisschen kurz sind, stabil scheinen sie auf jeden Fall.
I did that jump about 5 times. I still have the bruises to show you what you do for national television. The shower scene, if you didn't get the German, was basically the hostel showers are so good you can shower with your clothes on. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time. So, what happened next after my great appearance on German national television? I got featured by the New York Times, Guardian, Lonely Planet, which was a huge deal because I was this small blogger guy who'd written about these luxury hostels. Then the Guardian featured me, which was huge. It was incredible. I was so chuffed when they just said, "Oh, we really love what you're doing," and I did a feature for them. And then this thing happened at World Travel Market, which is this event that happens at the end of the year in London, and they named luxury hostels as a mega trend. You know you've made it in life when Travel Market names one of your projects as a mega trend. I was like, wow, it's a mega trend. But the only problem was that instead of calling it luxury hostels, they called it poshtels. Posh hostels? Sacrilege. That's the Daily Mail for you. Terrible. So, and yeah, a lot of people obviously ask me this big question whenever I talk about my life of blogging and working. The first question they always ask me is not about where you travel or what's your favorite place. How much money do you make from it? Do you make a living from it? And I said, yeah, you do make a living. Hostel World, the guys are actually in the audience. I hope you don't mind me showing my statistics. Last year, I worked with Hostel World as an affiliate, and I really love Hostel World. And I generated 929 bookings from my blog, and I earned 20,000 euros in affiliate income. So if somebody clicks from my blog and books it via Hostel World, I get a small commission. But you don't pay anything extra as a consumer. But it's one way I can support my blog. So what happened next? I wrote another book, self-published, Luxury Hostels of Europe. I won this award in 2016, and it was the best night of my life. I met this legend here, Michael Palin. He gave me this award and saying, congratulations, and it was amazing. And sometimes in life, what happens when you've reached this high peak in your life, or you've worked all your life thinking, I want to do something great, and you achieve something, you suddenly are left with this moment where, what lies next in life? And what happened was I kind of fell off a cliff. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I really lost my mojo. I was like, I didn't want to write or do any blogging. And then somebody said, why don't you go to Berlin? You should go to Berlin in the summer. By the way, I recommend it to you all. It's amazing in the summer. It's the best place to be. And I partied and drank a lot for 6 months. All the money I'd earned from my book, I just partied and drank. And I just didn't want to work. I think I was going through basically a breakdown or burnout. And I loved it though. But it wasn't really good for my bank income and everything. But sometimes life has a funny design. I was partying and enjoying myself, and one night in a bar I met this guy who runs this wonderful event called the Berlin Travel Festival. His name is Bernd Neff, and he said, you got a very inspiring story, you should come and speak at my event. So I came and spoke at his event, and when I was speaking at his event, which you should go to, it's beautiful, it's all about travel and travel stories like today. I met this publisher called Gestalten, who are the Emmas here from the room, and I met this guy, Robert, who's the chief publisher of Gestalten, who's a very good friend of Bernd. And he said, you have a great story and a great thing. We would like to publish a book about your luxury hostels. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, okay. And I spent 1 year of my life writing a book which you can find in the corner of the room. And that book is basically the 10 years of my life and all the amazing places I visited. And I call them the Grand Hostels. It's the Grand Hostels tour for the modern traveler. So to finish, I'm going to show you the video later, if we have time. The most important thing is that today I'm speaking on stage to you, telling you about my book. But the one thing I want you to remember from my talk today is that this book is not about me. It's about all the people in the book. People like Tinya, whose video I'm going to show you later. People like Nicola, who runs a very small hostel with 20 beds in Rijeka. Hallowelm Local, a small hostel outside Amsterdam and Haarlem, the loveliest people you will ever meet, and such a beautiful 17th century house, so cozy and so nice. Talk, a beautiful hostel in Seville. And Cube, the craziest, loveliest people in the world, again in the most unobvious place in the world. And the great thing about all these hostels is that they trusted me to tell their story to you. And one day I published a book about all these people. And you guys are picking up that book now and looking at it and planning your travels. But one thing we often forget in the blogging world and what we do is that we have this great power and this privilege and this amazing influence, which it's become a dirty word nowadays, influence. But I truly believe that a lot of us in this room have a great passion for telling stories, for helping people travel better, and showing the world that it's a beautiful place, because we do live in really weird, strange times at the moment. And that's why I think the message of travel, of people like this, of events like this is so important, because travel is the best way to fight all those fuckers out there who are trying to screw us over and make us put fear in our brains. And I really think the world is a beautiful place if you just give it a chance. And I really believe these hostels give people a chance to discover the world, and they show you the world in their own way. And every hostel in that book is like a magical portal into a magical world. And they will show you the city like no other. So when you buy my book, you are buying the dreams and investing in the dreams of all those people. So take a moment and think about that. And thank you. I know I'm out of time. Can I show the video? So she runs one of the smallest hostels in the book. It's in a place in Finnish Lapland. She's the most loveliest person ever, Tinya, and I hope one day you go and you meet her. And just say hello for me. Here's Tinya's story.
I had always dreamed about opening a hostel, and then I moved to Lapland and found this place and decided that this is a perfect place to have my dream come true. They can expect a cozy atmosphere, really friendly receptionist, and just really good feeling and relaxing environment. I have 8 hostel rooms, all different sizes, from single room to 8-bed dorm. Then there is 3 studio apartments and 1 cabinet sauna, and they all look different. They are individually decorated. There's a self-catering kitchen, and then we have communal sauna every evening. You can also do barbecue in front of the hostel. Yles is offering everything all around the year, and we have hiking, and you can climb up one of the 7 fells or all of them during your stay. In the autumn you can pick up berries and cloudberries, and we start to see the northern lights already from the beginning of August. This is my dream come true, and this feels like a home to me as well. So I welcome all the guests to my home.
So that's 10-year story, and that's the story of my book and how it all came together. Thank you for coming now. And if you want to stay in touch, and if you ever want to come and party in Berlin, which is my home, that's where you can get hold of me. But thank you very much, guys.